And that was the end of Group F. But now we're going to go on to Group G. The lettering's a bit random, but we are two groups away from finding out our entire top 16. Had Norway, Italy, Greece, and Denmark already go through this week. And we're going to find out two more from Romania, Turkey, Belgium, and the Czech Republic. And this very first game, I think, or the very first match, is going to be a good one, I think. Belgium, Czech Republic, four very strong players.
Yes, I will agree with you there. I had to actually look up, like a lot of the teams, you kind of know automatically who's going to be on the team because there's not that many strong players from the region. But Belgium, honestly, I had to kind of remind myself who was from there because, again, I know everyone is guilty of this, myself especially, but you sometimes forget who is actually from Belgium and who is from France because they're all just in the same scene, it feels like. With, you know, Lunary, Armor, Solari as well. But Oliek and Maverick, despite the fact that they are often confused for being in the French community, are two of the, I would say, strongest under-the-radar players, because despite Maverick's pretty good performance last year, picking up an HCT tour stop, I would say the majority of people watching probably aren't that aware of them.
Yeah, Maverick was really well known going back 2 or 3 years. He seemed to be in kind of everything. Yeah. Like you say, he picked up a tour stop last year and then didn't see that much of him around this year. And Oliek, this is his third HGG. He's just been in, like, the HGG man for Belgium, and he'll be looking to add some better results than they've had in previous years, I think, to this.
As we can see there, Faeli and Yala together in the same place. Always something I like to see in the global games when people live close enough together to just hang out. And honestly, I feel like not only is it nice to see, it actually gives them a bit of an edge. You know, you and I know better than anyone doing this cast that having to talk over Skype or Discord or whatever can give you a little bit of momentary lag, which is usually okay when you're casting. But when you only have 75 seconds to make a turn, when it comes right down to this point here, when the rope is halfway through, being in the same place can be the difference.
It very much can. We fumble enough on the cast, like you say, let alone having to make a snap decision in the last second. The Czech Republic have always done this. They've always got together every single time. And obviously, Faeli, if you are newer to Hearthstone and don't know who Faeli is, along with Kallax, who's one of the two people who made the massive mistake last year of being born in Europe. Just to build on that, obviously they were two of the players who amassed huge numbers of points, great results, but because Europe had such a strong region as GM was formed, they did miss out on GM. And we've still seen a lot of Kallax, but I think Faeli moved on a little bit to other things to some degree.
Yeah, I can agree with that there. Kallax, like you said, it was a a big missing out last year. I was very sad to see him not make GM last year. I was very sad to not make for him not to make GM this year. He's kind of one of the rallying cries, I think it's fair to say, along with Deaddraw, of people to say, how did these players not make GM? You know, if they didn't make it, the system's got to be changed in some way. And I think to an extent, I agree. They are very, very strong players with consistent results. But we're not talking about them right now. We're talking about Oliek, Yala, Faeli, and Maverick in this series of global games.
We are indeed, and it would be interesting to play a day or two's Hearthstone with Yala because he is the most considered player. He takes time more than anybody. Hunter Ace is reasonably slow, but Yala is slower than Life Coach ever was. But he has the results to prove it. If it works for you, I play a little bit of chess, and I'm a slow player. I'm always in time trouble.
Yeah.
If it works for you, you have to do it. If your brain functions that way that you need to sort of double check every little thing, and it helps you, you do that thing. But playing with him must be take a little bit of getting used to. But I'd also like to know all of the things that go through his mind.
I mean, I'm sure there's too much to go through in a single turn of Hearthstone. Like, it's one of those things that's kind of a bad talking point to go for, but I still feel like to an extent it can hold these players back. Like, we talk about Hunter Ace, like Yala, where they're clearly thinking about so many things in a turn that they're smart enough to know the factors that go into a turn, but they're not quite smart enough to pass through all of them 100% correctly 100% of the time in 75 seconds that you have to make your Hearthstone turn. So I feel like that's one of the things that can hold Yala back, is he's thinking about so many different things that could possibly change in a turn that when it finally comes down to it, maybe he's not able to distill that into this is the correct play quickly enough.
That's possible. One day when he's global champion, he will make that sweet play on 74 seconds that nobody else would ever have seen, just because he used all his time. And into the game in question, it's fairly standard, really. Combo Priest trying to get big stuff against Warrior, but not there yet. Desperately trying to protect their card draw, otherwise they're going to be in trouble. Both staring at this hand is like, okay, well, kill the cleric, hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely feeling the cleric's got to die on this turn. I don't know. I suppose you can make the argument for leaving it up for one turn just because you can brawl on the following turn, but it just doesn't really feel like you need to, honestly. Like, you can just kill it off this turn and then follow up with a Super Collider next turn and probably be in a very good spot.
Yeah, whenever you leave it up, I mean, we can see that it's not going to happen at the moment, but imagine a circle of healing where that silence is. Suddenly they draw just cards out of everywhere and all hell breaks loose. You just can't allow it to happen. They're going to allow it to happen.
No tomb can hold me.
No, they're not. I just can't hold up. They're going to get the full use out their mummy.
Yeah. It was really just whether you leave it reborn as a 3/1 or trade everything in, and this makes sense to me. You know, you may as well just get the health down. It means Plague of Wrath next turn. In the worst case, it's still a possibility to kill it off.
And now things become super tough. This is where putting a lot of time into your turn does help. Do you want to save the Pyromancer on the chances of you getting Cleric back? Or do you want to apply immediate pressure to the Warrior? Looks like they're going to apply the immediate pressure. But this way, good. Furthest, because this allows you... It gives you Cleric out to actually win the game. Because whatever minions you put down at the moment almost certainly won't win you the game.
Agreed.
Waiting for the day that these 3 minions can do 23 damage with no help. You have a long wait.
Yeah, you'll be waiting a while on that one. Brawl is... Wow, okay. Brawl is available. If you want to take a very risky chance to clear off the board, but I feel that is definitely not necessary. It's really just whether you want a Plague of Wrath, I guess, to clear off the board. Which, I mean, probably yes. I think I actually quite like the Plague of Wrath here. If you clear the minions off the board, it's unlikely that they will be able to draw a lot of cards because, you know, they can't go circle cleric into circle off the top.
Yeah, damaged minions are quite dangerous.
Yeah.
And also, when are you getting a better Plague of Wrath?
Not for a while. Oh, I think our feed has just frozen actually.
Okay,
that sounded like a Plague.
We just heard sound like something happening in the background, and all we can see are the 3 minions. So there's a 1-2, a 4-4, and a 2-3 that presumably have died. So we'll cast from the Twitch stream for a while, which means we'll be 30 seconds behind.
Yes, sure. Hey guys, chat. How's it going?
How's it going, chat?
I wonder.
Interesting. So somebody's passed the turn, but we're not quite sure who already. I'll try and alert somebody.
It's alright, just message.
Didn't even get as far as aware.
What now?
So as you can see before us, info number 2 has been drawn, which is pretty much the disaster.
Yeah, I mean, I heard...
If your feed starts, by the way, Darek.
I will. I did just hear that Harrison had been played, so, you know, we're on to something here. And yeah, they're the producers of where it's being fixed.
It was terrifying last time they fixed it. The small image of you just came into a massive picture of your face. Straight at me through the monitor. But we have got the pictures back, you'll be delighted to know. So we are going to see it before you.
They're moving magical pictures.
The images. Photography. The DVD.
The DVD. Alright, we've taken out the VHS, we put in the weird cleaner one, and now we're good to go again.
Wow. I suppose you remember those.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, meanwhile, Yala has actually picked up a cleric, which is really important because you'll get the card. Might well be too late though, because the wall of taunts are starting to happen.
The end.
Funky Tom is working again.
The what?
I don't know, just decided to read chat.
Okay, buddy. Oh, I see.
I decided to misread chat, actually. Yeah.
Yes.
Because this game of Hearthstone has progressed to such a point where it has become very difficult to cast, because as you can see, we are waiting on the Czech Republic to try and draw something that heals multiple things, or they're going to die.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely not the dream scenario here. For Yala, they do have the cleric, which is definitely what you need, I would say, to have a chance here versus Belgium. So if they can find themselves a circle of healing or Buon Samdi, I am feeling okay about their chances. I'd still put them quite far behind, honestly, but then they have a shot at taking this game.
Yeah, I mean, they have a silence, so as it stands, if they did just draw everything, silence through the taunt, off you go, take 24, it's been seen before, it'll be seen again. But boy, does it seem unlikely right now.
It seems very unlikely.
And obviously, the beatdown is commencing, which...
Ooh.
Whoa!
Alright, there we go. That's a card. That's a card. Cleric, Pyro, Silence the Reborn, Circle of Healing. Yes, I love it. Everything. Do it. Cards. Go.
Here come the cards.
That's not a bad card.
Well, that's not a bad card. And that's not a bad card.
Right, now they just need Stormwind Knight and we have a game on our hand.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the play? Notice that Yala did move fast there because he knew he was going to have a lot of decisions to make after all that happened.
Yep, I love it.
He was prepared, draw that circle, so when he needs to go quickly, it's not like he's like stagnated the rest of the time. When he needs to go quickly, he just goes quickly. That was perfect to set all this up.
Netheset, yep, get that down, draw a couple of cards. And then you can start faffing about with the rest of the Pyromancer. Silence Topsy Heal. Sure.
Silence Topsy Heal. Okay.
I don't know, it's probably not the best play, but you got to do something here.
Oh, let's go for ginormous Pyro Man.
I don't think I like using a. Maybe this is good. Okay, well, because my thinking is that using a Divine Spirit is pretty bad here because you probably need both to win this game. Yeah. But maybe there's a chance that Pyromancer sticks. I think
honestly, that was a good turn. They've seen the Plague of Wrath. Their positioning's perfect around the Super Collider.
What now?
Yeah, I like it. Because what else are they going to do? Nothing sticks ever otherwise.
Yeah.
Yana's got a new friend. That's nice. Maverick, of course, part of... I mean, obviously he is Belgian, and I'm not going to do the French-Belgian Maverick joke too often, but he is part of the French community that love to play Warriors. Go with that.
Yeah. Him and Swids in particular, I'd say, are just absolute control warrior degenerates.
Yeah, Odemian likes to have a bit of a warrior sometimes.
Very true. Very true.
Well, we thought that the Pyro was a long shot, but it might just work. Unfortunately, it was just a long shot.
Yeah, this Hecklebot is as swollen as my head. And that is now both clerics dead, so Circle of Healing no longer draws any cards.
So Amet is now basically where you're at if there's no Brawl in the warrior hand.
Yuck.
Guess what, kids?
There's a Brawl?
Also a kid. No, there's a Brawl in the warrior hand, yeah.
I was gonna say I would give any amount of money to see you as a children's entertainer, and then I realized you're a Hearthstone caster. You're already a children's entertainer.
Wow. Fair.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
You've got to get rid of the silence there.
Yeah.
Get rid of the talk there. Sorry.
And that was the sound of silence, the first time ever.
Wow.
Can't believe I've never said that before in all my years.
Me neither, honestly.
How has that never happened before?
So Oliek obviously knows that one Divine Spirit has been used. Well, okay, I mean, I was going to say, so he could definitely get away with Dr. Boom here and be very, very unlikely to die on the following turn. I think it would actually be impossible for him to die quite yet. But with the pickup of N'Zoth, that might just be the nail in the coffin that he needs to close this one out instead.
He challenged me to find a way where they could die, but I think you are right. Actually, no. With extra arms, etc.
What now?
Yeah, I think you can get that up big enough. No, it doesn't matter because they're not going to do it. But...
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Maybe with extra arms. Good point. But I mean, like factoring in the 7 armor that Dr. Boom gets you as well, like that's 31. That means you have to buff it to 15 first. It's probably a bit out. Or 16 first, actually. I'm just saying, you know, people break it down.
Yeah, if I want to be wrong,
that's your
challenge
right.
me to something that's impossible. Who knows?
Okay, I'm thinking this is probably the last big minion you're going to be able to stick. So I'm thinking you've got to make this an 18-18. And then just hope it gets there.
That does make a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah, he agrees. I suppose you could hold back the inner fire technically, because it does enough damage as it is. But, I mean, if this is cleared, the game's over anyway.
Yeah. Maybe they get themselves in a situation where it's only a brawl or bust, but
Sure.
even that's a 1 in 5, the chances are they won't even get there, so...
Our tomb.
Move quickly.
Right.
By the end of the day, we will know the winners of this group. The other 2 teams are being Romania and Turkey.
Yeah, and then tomorrow we will be finding out which 2 teams are eliminated and who will be joining the winner as the runner-up of the group to be following us through to the final, to the top 16 next week. And then we're also running through one more group tomorrow, I believe, every single match in the group to find out who our final 4 teams are over today and tomorrow to join us in the top 16.
And that top 16 is shaping up very nicely. I don't think there's been a team go through where we haven't thought, wow, they played well. Denmark were a bit sketchy on 1 or 2 turns, but that's different from not playing well.
Yes.
You know, there were a little bit of communication or something, not quite leaving enough animation time issues. But again, that's very different to not playing well. But Italy have looked really good. Mexico have looked really good, ignoring the obvious massive names. I must admit, I'd like to see what Mexico bring this time. They entertained us greatly last week.
Yeah. I mean, I think...
know why we talk about that, but this is...
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say that I think overall the standard of play has been very high, in my opinion. You know, given that, not trying to theme too hard, but given that, honestly, most of the players are playing Battlegrounds as opposed to practicing on ladder or practicing practice matches, I think the standard of play has been very...
Yeah, Battlegrounds has really obviously taken off well. I stuttered there because now we have to watch another turn.
Sure.
And I think it has impacted 1 or 2 players. Obviously, they've had long years, especially the GMs.
I wonder.
But also, don't underestimate the amount of qualifying some of these people have played. There are people out there with a lot of qualifying matches.
It's a very good point. Yeah. All right, the final hurrah here for Yala. You know, he still has a Amet in the deck, obviously, but I don't think that's going to be coming anywhere close to winning the game.
Just in case anybody actually trusts chat, by the way, this is a team event, teams of 2. The people you see on their own are communicating with their teammate via whatever means they've discovered, carrier pigeon or the internet, tubes, something like that. So it is teams of 2 across the board.
Yeah, there are many different ways to communicate in this. As you can see, as you can probably hear, me and Lorinda have opted for a tin can and a piece of string.
And the string's not quite long enough.
I'm so
I'm going to make a bold prediction that in a moment, the Czech Republic are going to be 1-0 behind.
Really?
I think so. I think at a moment, no,
In the lights,
no, really. In a moment, you're going to be 1-0 behind.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically they can keep this light warden alive, but they're not idiots. They know this is over. I mean, you could probably be an idiot and still realize this is over, but
I did.
they happen to not be.
I mean, I guess in the world where you get Amet and then Psychopath
No,
and Amet
there
comes
is
back,
no-
you still lose.
There is no world.
When I first started casting, I'd come up with these scenarios that aren't going to happen. You'd go, yeah, maybe. You just go, nah, shut up, Lorinda.
Well, I mean,
34.
alright. I'm just saying, if there was a
Alright, then.
possibility, I would entertain it. There is no hope at all for Yala right now. This is...
So can you entertain us instead then?
Oh, well, that's might be a step too far.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
What are you doing, Oleg? Just play the snip snap. It wins the game. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, but the trouble is you're playing against somebody who hasn't conceded. So you're thinking, what is their cunning plan? They must be up to something.
Hey!
Good man. We love you.
All right, Yala. 1-0 in favour of Belgium there. It was an expected loss, and I think while Czech Republic did the best they could in the mid-game to be able to pull it back, that was quite clearly always going to go that way. So, the warrior out of the way now for Belgium. They just got their priest and their shaman left remaining. I'm just going to check as to what kind of priest that is actually, because that obviously makes a big difference. It's another...
I've written it down as a combo priest, yeah.
Yes, you are correct, which I think could actually struggle for Belgium. That might be... I would say those are two matchups.
your
And then back to the mirror, that's, you know, it's a mirror. It's only 50-50 at best.
Yeah, and the priest mirror is the 50-50st of mirrors. I mean, they're all 50-50, obviously. But it's not a case of one side can outplay the other, usually at this level at least. It's a very hard mirror, but I think most of the top players have got it down very, very well. So while it's a hard mirror, for me, at the top level, I think the guys, it does come down to, do you get the nuts more often than I would like to see?
I mean, all mirrors for you are quite challenging, I'd say, Neil.
Yeah, it's all that sort of stuff.
But taking a look at the rogue deck for
Yes.
Czech Republic, it's a bit of a weird one, actually. You'd be forgiven for thinking that it is Highlander rogue when you see the copy of Siamat in there, but nope. This is a regular old Tempo rogue with King Togwaggle in there, but it's also got 1 Spirit of the Shark, 1 Hench Clan Burglar, 1 Waggle Pig, 1 Evil Cable Rat. This is a very weird, non-streamlined version of Rogue that tries to cover a few more bases while making the core game plan a little bit weaker.
The sort of thing that would absolutely give subtle palpitations, and in some ways rightly so. If your deck's trying to do something, then make your deck do that thing. It's not like wildly insane, but the 1 Spirit of the Shark, maybe that's the answer. Everyone's arguing about whether you play Questings, whether you play Spirit of the Sharks. Maybe 1 for some late game value, and 2 Questing is just the way forward. It kind of makes sense. The Shark early is garbage in a lot of the matchups currently on offer. But the 1 late can just be to warrior on its own, so why not just play 1? That kind of makes some sense to me. I do like double questing adventurer though. You don't see that very often at all.
Yeah, I like it a lot against the shaman as well, specifically because while you would be forgiven for thinking like, you know, shaman's quite aggressive. You don't really want that card against an aggressive deck because it's a bit vulnerable. I find if you can just get a hand that's, well, actually anything like this, I think you're in a really good spot to be able to fight back against the board early on and make a giant questing or Edwin, now that that's been found, that the shaman can't kill.
And this is the point I think that people miss about how good questing adventurer is. Yes, your opponent can usually deal with it, but they then got to deal with the Edwin as well quite often, and that's when it gets really difficult. And they're just saving up to make some monsters.
100%. This is absolutely correct in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just annoying, obviously, that a fairy dragon came down, which is like the one unbackstabbable target that could be created by a faceless lackey. But I think that is not really of any concern to Viali. If he's going to be throwing down a 10-10 Edwin here, that should be game winning on its own right.
Yeah. Yeah, unless something crazy happens with evolves, etc. Maybe a frog into a bloodlust next turn or something.
Wow. Huh, this
How
is kind
big
of
is your Edwin if you want an Edwin even this turn?
I mean, you could just go for the world's biggest Edwin, which, yes, that will win you the game. Or maybe you could consider going for like a big questing this turn that's like ends up as a 6-6 and then maybe follow up with an Edwin next turn. But I think, you know, that sounds fine. What sounds ultimately game-winning is a 14-14 Edwin.
And that's what we all want to see, let's face it. Since the dawn of Hearthstone time, all people have really wanted to do is watch people make big Edwins to upset their opponents.
I love how quickly Edwin has gone from like a real cornerstone of like a poster child for toxicity in Hearthstone to now all of a sudden people are like, yeah, 16-16 Edwins, finally justice for the broken shaman.
That's a really good point, actually.
Heroes.
This happened like, I don't know, 6 months ago, 9 months ago when Rogue was everywhere.
Right,
People
exactly.
been just, like, been disgusted. I mean, I am disgusted, but in like a happy way.
The Edwin has lived long enough to see itself become the hero instead of the villain. It's like a Harvey Dent in reverse. Wow. I guess.
Spoilers for the first 5 minutes of a movie that everyone already knows about. Heartless soul.
Right, I'm thinking in this instance, this is probably just a zap the 1-2, push everything face, including the Lickim here. Like, I suppose you can make the argument for Soul of the Murloc because you want to have as many minions on board as possible for Giant next turn, but like, I mean, really your best chance, I feel like, is just smacking them over the head.
I think the only way you don't lose this is if you draw Bloodlust next turn.
Okay.
Because you have to kill the Edwin, you're not even going to kill the opponent.
And I guess
I think you have to.
Yeah, this line of play does leave you a zap in hand, which is good with Frog or Thunderhead top deck. So sure, I'm on board with this.
In fact, yeah, the 4/1/1s, for instance, would be exactly 16. Which is convenient. So with that in mind, the 16 goes to face. You dagger down the hare and take out the Murloc with the cat.
Mummy needs 5 more.
Sounds like a really bad children's story.
Right, the Edwin goes face. Tick. I like this turn. That's the only thing I wanted to see happen.
Make the big noise. Yeah, that's the turn.
Giant is playable, and then you die.
And then you evolve, and then you die.
Sure. I mean,
A brief history of time.
Maybe if we were to see, you know, 2 injured Tolvirs that come down, like, we're looking at a hint of a chance.
Sure.
But still really no chance.
And the other possibilities are... Nope.
Nope and nope.
Yeah. Oh, I guess they're working out whether they can afford to hit face or whether they need to kill the other minions because they will potentially proc something on a taunt minion. I guess. In the world where your evolve actually does what you want it to.
Mummy needs 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay, this is smart. Let's look for taunts. Those are not
Don't
taunts.
taunt, 1 all.
Next game.
Rack 'em up.
Yeah, it's just one of the classic rules of Hearthstone. A big Edwin at the start of the game, you do not meet. Barely bows after that dominating performance. Yeah. Surely some inspired play there, my friend.
He played that so much better than Yala played game 1. It's unbelievable.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, drew good stuff, played good stuff. 16-16 Edwin. That's a silly Edwin.
Yeah, it was the perfect game of Hearthstone, right? There was no way he lost with the play he did, so he did it.
And so that's 1 apiece. Not a lot to say about those first 2 games, to be perfectly honest with you, but there looks like it's going to get a bit more mixed up going forwards with this. So we'll catch you in 3 minutes for the conclusion. That was pretty quick. 1 game apiece, and so on to game 3, I guess. Derek.
That makes sense.
More priests and warriors and shamans. We've seen quite a few, but how does this particular mix line up to your eye?
Well, I'm seeing 1 deck out of all of the 4 remaining that looks very, very likely to get a wing. Czech Republic's Warrior has just got 2 fantastic matchups, in my opinion. One against the Shaman, which is a very favorable matchup. I wouldn't even be too afraid to call it like 70%, even though that is quite drastic. And then one against the Priest with the Warrior, which I'd call something closer to like 55% favorable for Warrior. It still feels like a pretty good matchup for the Warrior. And that's what we got first of all. It's going to be Maverick that we're seeing for the first time up there, the very popular Belgian streamer, Hearthstone personality, pro player extraordinaire, trying to take on Yala's warrior.
Yeah, and we haven't seen... I mean, Priest can do also disgusting things, just like we just saw with that Edwin, but we haven't really seen it do it much. I know that's just how the lay of the land has been, but we haven't seen those crazy, crazy starts that we saw quite often in GM. So maybe it's due that somebody just went and did it now. Maybe I know that's not how numbers work, but you know.
Full toss, I agree. We want to see Town Crier, Restless Mummy, those early game plays.
Yeah.
You can throw down and contest the board. This looks like a perfectly decent start to the game, I would say.
Yeah, it's a fair hand for each player. Nobody's got totally broken nonsense. Which is disappointing if you're a Belgian fan, because that's what your deck's supposed to have. But it's still pretty powerful.
Yeah, and the really devastating thing here for Maverick, even though it seems absurd to say if you're missing one card, it's devastating, is no Cleric. It's just really all you want against Warrior, in my experience, because yes, you can win with this style of hand, where you just make one giant thing at the start of the game, you know. If we were to see Injured Blade Master, and then you Circle of Healing to heal it up, Divine Spirit in a Fire, Bish Bash Bosh, that can win the game. Generally, I find, though, that your highest chance of winning by far is Cleric comes down and you draw an absolute boatload of cards.
Yeah, I think outside of untapped potential, it's the most important card to have in your starting hand in like all of Hearthstone right now.
I guess. Yeah, it's weird.
Being a little bit more important.
Have you noticed there's this really weird statistical anomaly? I've never seen a Druid player not draw the quest. I swear it's bugged.
I wonder if anyone's ever thrown it, though, trying to control shamans.
I did actually think about that.
Yeah.
I was bringing this up that maybe against some decks as Druid you throw away the quest. I'm pretty sure it's always just 100% wrong, but I definitely thought about it.
In some meta games that aren't this one, if that deck had existed, I think it would have been right.
I think you might be right, yeah.
But in this particular meta game, even if you want to just kill everything a shaman's got, it kind of makes sense, right? You get an extra card, you don't need the mana. But they keep coming at you and coming at you. You've got to get the value from somewhere, so you can't do it. What you can do is maybe miss a turn or two of it and swipe and just not tick up the quest for a turn. You can get away with that.
Yes, for sure. I think if you threw away the quest against any deck right now, like Shaman, they'd just hero power for 7 turns, and then you would be outbound at that point, probably.
It's true. But historically, I think there probably are decks where if you pitted it against them, you would throw the quest. But anyway, Cleric's good is the short version of this diatribe.
It is indeed. And the Snip Snap is a nice pickup for Yala. You know, it doesn't perfectly contest this Light Warden board. It does do. It just allows you to stick something on the board after the Restless Mummy inevitably comes down on turn 4. Because clearly, as we can see here, Maverick wants to play the more arms, right? That's the only really good play, I would say, here. But if he does that, that is a 6 health Light Warden, which Mummy eats for breakfast.
Must consider.
Okay, how much are you actually losing by doing that? If they have got it, if they haven't got it, you're doing well. If they have got it, you've lost your extra arms. Is that a total disaster?
Yes. If they have it here, you are in disaster town. But the problem is, there's not really any good plays around Restless Mummy, because the only alternative is to go Divine Spirit in a Fire, which brings you up to 8, and then all of a sudden, hey ho, what do you know? You're just dead to Restless Mummy plus Snip Snap, so it still doesn't get you out of range.
I feel that your play there was to play it, because if they've got Restless Mummy, you're in deep trouble anyway.
Yes, Restless Mummy was always bad there, so you may as well just do what you were going to do anyway. And I think that's what Maverick does, and I think it's correct. Also, you would be forgiven for going missed 2 damage, Hex W, Lol W, forehead, Ellie Giggle. But I'm pretty sure there for Yala it's a deliberate decision to not attack there because he doesn't want to allow Light Warden to grow. It probably has absolutely no bearing on the game, but I'm going to say it's on purpose.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, it would be hilarious if you spent 75 seconds thinking about the only move, which is attack face, and then forgot. That would be amazing.
Yes, that would be the Yala special.
Unity. Precision.
Super mean to Yala, but honestly, he's one of my favourite players and has been for a long time. Just, apart from maybe when you're casting 9 rounds at a DreamHack or something and he's the last to finish every round and you want to go to bed, in terms of his actual playing and as a person, he's superb.
That is a cleric found, which is very, very important indeed. In addition to the silence, you know, this is a board that Maverick may be able to pull into the lead on. It's not an absurdly good hand, but as soon as he finds a circle of healing, you know, I don't hate his chances that much.
Yeah, especially as Czech Republic don't really have much of a hand. It's a hand that is good enough and can develop even further. But right now, it's not absolutely perfect. But it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. Unless a circle gets ripped off the top for Belgium, then things will change quick.
Yes, of course. There's a real big decision here as to whether you go part 2 or Shield Slam. I have to be honest, I was definitely expecting Shield Slam to come down on this turn. But I guess the thinking is that, you know, this trade's okay against this board. It's not that bad. It will probably trade evenly. And you still have the Shield Slam for the absolute nightmare cards. We're talking about like Amit, if that were to come down, that you need to Shield Slam it straight away. Maybe a Bon Samdi as well.
I wonder.
Yeah, Amit being the big deal.
But,
so it's not Amit, but it's Amit plus other things on the same turn.
Yeah.
But this is already another thing that needs dealing with. But they feel they've got it under control, so...
I get the feeling that this might end up being heal Divine Spirit. And probably save the Inner Fire. In which case, maybe you play the Cleric as well, because you might be able to res it off the Psychopomp the turn after.
Quickly.
Yeah, the Divine Spirit challenges your opponent to have something, but if you play the Cleric, it gives them Brawl as an even better out.
Yeah.
So I think they're just going to go with the narrow board.
Play the the Inner Fire as well. I'm not sure if I agree with this. I think
Like they needed to.
Yeah, right. Like they're probably going to be floating panels coming turns anyway.
And the 4 attack was dealing with everything anyway.
Right, exactly. I think it's close because like their thinking may just be if this is dealt with, we lose the game anyway, which is definitely a school of thought that I'm not like opposed to. That seems quite logical that if this dies, the game just ends.
They were also quite low on time. Maybe they'd rather make the mistake of playing it, and at least that's okay, than the mistake of not playing it and realizing it was needed for some reason.
And basically, it works out exactly the same for them here, except they don't have an Inner Fire now.
Right.
You could make the argument that Double Shield Slam wouldn't have come down if they hadn't played the Inner Fire, but I think it probably would have done anyway.
Yeah, I think it would.
I must choose.
Not a lot left in the tank for the Czech Republic here, but they do have Acolyte Warpath in an emergency. And they're still absolutely fine. But maybe an Amit now would actually change things a little.
And actually, the effect of Yala's play to not attack face for the entire game comes full circle. Look at this. The Light Warden cannot be buffed. Amazing. That is a 5-head play. This is like 6-head territory for Yala.
Six-head. That's off the charts.
Exactly.
Let the pain speak to me.
Okay.
Yep, that's what start. Because all Yala really needs to do is bridge next turn. As soon as he plays, as soon as he plays Mizoth, I think he's probably looking into that.
Yeah, he doesn't have much for next turn, to be fair, because the double shield slam's gone. The hand is, yeah. I mean, we can see it doesn't matter. We're talking about next turn as if it was ever going to happen, but do you want to heal your opponent's acolyte? Nope, instead you've got to do the overcommit, which makes more sense.
Yeah, got to start drawing. Got to.
My goodness.
Believe me, I think this cleric does have to survive if Maverick wants a chance.
Yeah, it really does.
I wonder.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Yeah, don't think I had any other choice there. Trying to work out how it ends for them. Actually, it doesn't end too badly, does it? So they have to lob out a brawl here, I guess. Oh, especially now. That's just. Yeah. The Pyromancer's played in case they do draw the circle, so they can have a lot of stuff available on board without having to spend 2 mana. Because sometimes those circle turns get out of hand.
Yeah.
And they've got another Pyromancer, so what's the loss? Well, the loss is now your cleric is more likely to die in this brawl. But so what?
Yeah, exactly. You can't. I mean, you can't play around anything at this point. I think as Maverick, you're so far behind that you have to just throw everything on the board and hope it sticks.
Interestingly, Yarla was one who was going to make a quick play there, and it was Faley who pulled him back and said, "Actually, what about this?"
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a discussion whether you want to trade in the Acolyte before you brawl or not is one thing.
I mean, I think it's just whether you need to brawl at all, right?
Or,
I think you
yeah,
get yourself
Yarla,
a better set of trades.
his instinct was to just go for Super Glider.
Yeah, this still allows a cleric clear, which is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
So there we go. Cleric is dead, and likely so is Maverick.
I think that's a fair estimation of the situation.
Play the powered shield, and then bottom right, buddy.
No, then draw something else equally useless that keeps you going. Yeah, like this.
Oh,
That's how it
God,
always
okay.
works.
Sure. Okay. That is technically a card that means the game is not over. Make no mistake, the game is still over, but sure.
Yeah, given that you're playing the powered shield, this is the card you needed to make sure the game didn't end immediately.
Yes, that is the only card that doesn't end the game
And you
immediately.
sound so excited by the prospect of another 4 turns of this game, and I understand that.
I don't know. It's just like I can't help but
What's
picture
game?
myself. I can't help but
Yeah.
picture myself in these situations when it's happening, where like I don't really play much control warrior, if any, on ladder because I'm not insane, and so I'm always the person playing, you know, a combo priest or aggro shaman or rogue on the other side that always ends up in this scenario where you're thinking maybe I can get there, maybe I can get there, maybe I can get there, and you never do. It never works.
Yeah.
But sometimes.
But also
it
on
does.
ladder, it's in your interest to concede.
Yeah. I
Whereas when
guess.
you're playing for a $75,000 prize pool, it's in your interest to carry on.
Yeah.
And as you can see, Yarla and Faley still taking it mega seriously, even though they're on the other side of that equation. Of
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, lock it up. If there's nothing else that you need to worry about, close out the game as best as possible. Because, I mean, I say this game is 100% over. This game is 100% over because it's Yarla and Faeli. If you mess
Sure.
up, then the game is not over, obviously. But I don't think Yarla and Faeli are good.
And that was quite an in-depth play, actually, because the Plague of Wrath, knowing your opponent's got a handful of 1-drops,
Yeah.
is a big deal. Obviously, they didn't want to blow up their own N'Zoth and injure their own minions from there. But
I see a dark
this is the one situation they had to play around, so let's see what their plan is.
This is the quote-unquote disaster scenario for Yarla. Where they're facing down. Yep, you know, as we can see here, a bunch of 7 and 9 health minions.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Not as much as it's a disaster scenario for us if they actually win this game.
Right.
So the question is, how much to play around, like to try and keep one more turn for Pyromancer, Light Warden, Cleric, and how much to just go all in and hope they haven't got Brawl.
I think it's again this spot of if they have Brawl, the game is over at that point. There's nothing left in the deck. Maverick if there's a Brawl there.
Yep. And guess what, kids?
There we go. So I guess, oh no, sorry, I'm being stupid. I was gonna say, do you throw minions into the Brawl because if the cleric survives, you don't want anything for them to attack him too. But then I realized, haha, I'm an idiot. Yeah, right, Brawl time. Hoping that basically anything other than the Amit survives, I guess, and you should just fine with Valor. That's just fine.
Now pull a Divine Shield off the top. Divine Spirit. Because that will be the thing that makes the game last longer. So the next game, they now only have to win with their own priest.
Yes.
Assuming, I'm going to make the terrific assumption they win this one. They've got to win the mirror. And they have to beat the something else. So they have to not lose the mirror and not lose to Token Shaman. So looking pretty good, but...
There's the off.
Hold on, Oliek. I think there might be a way.
Hey!
2-1.
I think we cut away there just as there was a fist bump about to happen between Yala and Faeli. But either way, like you said, just the Priest left now for Czech Republic, and they have to take a win against either the Priest in the mirror, 50% matchup, obviously, or against the Shaman, which I think we can both agree is probably slightly less than a 50-50 up against the Shaman, because they have the, the Lick Him and the Lightning Bolts, all the early game removal, in addition to the infamous Shaman cards, Mogu Evolve, Desert Hare, Spirit, all that broken stuff, against which Priest doesn't stand much of a chance. But Yala here to get things rolling. Looks like he has a pretty strong aggressive hand.
Yep, and by strong and aggressive you mean he's got a cleric.
He does.
There's
got a lot of one drops as well.
In the hand for Oliek.
He is going first though, which definitely makes the frog worse. I like keeping it still, but it's a lot worse.
Inner fire, a big deal here too. Just in case you need to start trading into stuff. Yeah, I mean, the proof of the pudding on this one is purely logical. This was the most busted deck, the Priest deck.
Is someone injured?
A lot of people had this deck. A lot of people play this deck. And now everyone plays Shaman. So if Priest was even close to favoured, the people who played it before would still be playing it.
Right.
And they're not. They're playing the Shaman.
They are indeed. The Cleric here was somewhat of a consideration, I suppose, as to whether or not you play it. I do like going for it on turn 1, because now that Lightning Bolt has disappeared from all but every Shaman deck, Oliek had very, very limited ways to kill that off. It basically had to involve a zap in some way. And therefore, I think it was pretty safe to throw this down here, because obviously the upside is it allows you to go either Coin Blademaster Circle of Healing, or now that the Power Shield is picked up, probably just buff the health of all.
Yeah, this is a version with one Novice, as you can see in the hand right now, and one Lightning Storm.
Okay.
The two... There's just 2 cards in every Shaman deck that you don't know what they're going to be, basically, and that's their choices. Wow.
Right, I love it. This is the kind of thing that Shaman does not have an answer to.
Yeah, we talked about Edwin, we talked about Questing Adventure. It turns out, Priest can make their own on turn 2.
That's right.
That's okay, because we've got a Novice Engineer.
Is it
Obviously,
Novice?
No, it's got to be Frog.
I don't know. They're both
Chain.
pretty bad.
Well, Novice just gives them an easy card as well, which you don't want to off the 1-2.
Right, but then you could extend that thinking to, okay, do you maybe go Novice plus Voltaic Burst, which allows you to take out the 1-2, and then, if the Cleric wants to trade into a 1-1, fantastic. I would love for that to happen. So at that point, they're not drawing a card. When you run through all of that, though, the upside that you've achieved is you have some 1-1s on board, which probably isn't game-winning.
No, but it's a good point you make, because it's more evolved targets, and at the moment you're desperately looking to roll 2 or 3 taunts in a row. Your way out of it is to get taunts into Mogu, into more taunts.
Maybe that line was actually worth exploring a little bit more because,
Yeah.
like, it overloads going into turn 4, which means turn 5, Bloodlust is more likely to be playable, and you can play the Soul of the Murloc on turn 3. On turn 4 on 3 1/1s, which is not that bad.
Yeah, that's making more sense to me actually now. Because it's completely instinctive for me to do what Belgium did, but you're right. There's
Absolutely.
a lot more in that play.
And, you know, obviously it just insta loses to Wild Pyromancer, sure, and maybe it's too slow and you get beaten up by the Cleric before any of that works anyway. But I don't know, I think it was definitely worth thinking about, which I'm sure they did.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Or more likely, what does happen in these sort of situations, they thought about it at some point in the past and know instinctively that it's wrong.
Yeah. And that is going to be GG.
Topsy-turvy.
Yeah, exact lethal here for Yala and Faeli. A swift victory here for both of these teams, which means our initial match to the group G is done with Belgium moved down to the losers bracket. Sadly, Czech Republic, after a very strong series of Hearthstone, move up 3 games to 1 into the winners bracket. And it's got to be said, it was mostly nothing too flashy there, but I think I just liked the most of everything we saw there from the Czech Republic. I think it was just a very strong series of Hearthstone.
Yep, played well, but also the little things you highlighted at the start. The players in the same room, the players get on and know each other. They're enjoying themselves, they're winning, and they got the cards they needed as well. Which, in those sort of priesty, shamany, rogue triangles, you do need to not only play really well, but also get those hands sometimes.
You do, but I think that means that I, unlike you, am done for the day.
Unlucky, I get to watch more Hearthstone. You have to talk to chat.
I mean, I'll still be watching. I don't know
I
why.
know you will. You're going to be there posting from chat that you're watching still. But that is that game done. We have Romania and Turkey waiting in the wings. So without further ado, have 3 minutes of this, and we'll be right back.